The coffee still brews at 6:15. The house still smells like toast and perfume. But lately, even the silence feels staged. Mornings used to mean something. The sound of Jessica humming in the kitchen. The way sunlight touched her hair. It all used to feel like proof that we'd built something solid. 8 years in the same house, same street, same damn order of things. I liked that. Predictability. It meant peace. Now the same rhythm feels hollow. She still pours my coffee. Same mug. Same smile. But her eyes don't meet mine. Her phone sits face down beside her plate. She used to scroll through the news with me, trade comments, laugh about dumb headlines. Now it's just silence. A polite silence that fills the room like fog. She's leaving earlier for work. Says there's a new line launching at the boutique. Big season. Lots of prep. I nod. Pretend I don't notice the new perfume. It's too expensive for the story she's telling. When she leans over to kiss my cheek before heading out, the scent lingers after she's gone. I stand there in the doorway, holding my coffee, pretending it's just another Tuesday. I work in civil engineering, bridges, foundations, load-bearing truths. I've built things meant to last decades. But marriage isn't concrete, no matter how steady it looks on paper. You can't run diagnostics on love. You just feel the weight shifting under you and hope it's not too late to reinforce it. At night, she stays on her phone in bed, screen lighting her face like a secret. When I ask what she's reading, she says, emails. Her voice is gentle but clipped, a tone I've never heard from her before. The first few times, I brushed it off. Stress, business, fatigue. But comfort has a way of dulling instinct, and lately my instincts are waking up angry. Friday night, we had dinner at home. I grilled steaks. She made a salad she barely touched. She laughed at something on her phone, and when I asked what was funny, she said, nothing, too fast. I watched her from across the table, her hair pulled back, eyes avoiding mine, the faint red mark near her collarbone she didn't have that morning. Long day, I asked. Exhausting, she said, sipping wine. I wanted to ask more, but I didn't. Instead, I cleared the dishes, told her I'd catch up on some project specs in the office. Truth was, I just needed to breathe somewhere she wasn't. In the office, I stared at the framed photo of us on our honeymoon in Montana. Her in my jacket, laughing by the river. That woman doesn't exist anymore. Or maybe she does, just not with me. Still, I tell myself not to be paranoid. You don't tear down a bridge just because it creaks. You inspect. You test. You wait. Later that night, she came in, kissed my head, and said goodnight. Her lips were warm, but they didn't feel like hers. When I finally lay down beside her, I stared at the ceiling, tracing cracks in the paint. They weren't there before. Maybe they've been there all along, hidden beneath the comfort. Her laughter changed first, then her eyes. After that, everything she said started sounding like a cover story. I stopped timing it, but I noticed. The earlier mornings, the later nights, the perfume that wasn't for me. At first, I called it work pressure. Jessica's boutique had always been her pride, silk and rose. The kind of place women called curated. I used to be proud of her. Independent. Ambitious. I liked that she built something of her own. But lately that ambition had teeth. She started dressing sharper, like every day was an event. Makeup even on Sundays. New clothes I hadn't seen the receipts for. You look nice, I told her once, leaning against the kitchen counter. She smiled without looking at me. Just feeling good about myself. The words were harmless, but her tone wasn't. It had that edge people get when they're already living two versions of themselves. I tried not to think like that. I told myself good men trust their wives. Bad ones go looking for ghosts. But ghosts don't hide when they know you're blind. At work, I'd find my mind slipping, zoning out during project meetings, thinking about her instead of soil densities. My partner, Mike, joked that I was finally getting domesticated. I smiled, but my stomach turned. Nights got worse. Jessica's phone lived under her pillow. Once, around midnight, I heard it buzz. She rolled away from me. The screen glowed on her back. Who's that? I asked, voice flat. Just an order update, she said, not turning around. Her shoulders tensed. Mine did too. I lay awake for hours, listening to her breathing, wondering if she was even asleep. A few nights later, I tried to kiss her. She kissed back, soft but distracted, like her mind was elsewhere. She pulled away first. "I'm tired," she whispered. I nodded. "Yeah, long week." I rolled over, staring into the dark, and something broke quietly inside me. Not a crash, more like the sound of a crack running through old concrete. It went on like that for weeks, little things stacking up. She laughed more at her phone than at me. She wore a new necklace I didn't buy. Once, she came home smelling faintly of a cologne that didn't belong to me. I said nothing, didn't want to hear her lie. The silence between us started to sound like proof. One night, I got up for water and found her sitting in the living room, lights off, face lit by her phone. She didn't hear me walk in. Her lips moved soft, smiling, whispering, "Jess." She flinched, locked the screen instantly. "You scared me." "Who were you talking to?" She blinked. "No one, just a video." Sounded like someone talking back. She gave me that patient smile, the one she used to use on customers. "Andrew, you're being paranoid." Maybe I was, but paranoia has a smell, and the room was full of it. I went back to bed, sat on the edge, staring at my hands. The man I was 5 years ago wouldn't have doubted her. But that man also believed comfort meant safety. He didn't know comfort could rot from the inside. By dawn, I'd stopped pretending. I sat in my truck outside the house, engine idling, staring at the steering wheel. My chest felt hollow, not broken, just empty in a way that made space for something new. Resolve. I took out my phone, scrolled through listings, found one that read, "Discreet Investigations, Marital and Domestic Cases. Raymond Cole, Denver." I saved the number, thumb hovering over the call button. My reflection stared back from the screen. Tired, tight around the eyes, but clear. Then I pressed call. "Cole Investigations," a voice answered. "I need to know the truth," I said. It was the hardest sentence I'd ever spoken. 3 days after hiring the investigator, Jessica texted me, "Dinner tonight? Just us." I stared at the message like it was a test I hadn't studied for. It had been 72 hours since I called Cole. 3 days of waiting, pretending everything was fine. 3 days of watching Jessica glide through the house like a woman rehearsing a part. That morning, she made breakfast again. Toast, eggs, same routine. But she hummed "First time in weeks." That was worse than silence. It meant she thought she had control. When her text came that afternoon, I was in the office reviewing blueprints. "Dinner tonight? Just us." No emoji, no warmth, just the line itself, simple and deliberate. For a second, I thought it might be her way of fixing things. But a part of me, the part that still heard her whispering in the dark, knew it wasn't reconciliation. It was recon. I replied, "Sure. 7 works." We went to a place we used to love downtown. Soft lights, leather booths, a wine list longer than the menu. I wore a button-down, the same one she once said made me look put together. She was already there when I arrived. Red dress, lipstick, every detail is calculated. When she saw me, she smiled. Not the old smile, the easy one. This was careful, managed. "Hey," she said. "Hey." We ordered. Small talk followed: work, the kids, her boutique's expansion plans. Every word landed flat, but she kept studying me. Not my face, my reactions, like she was measuring distance. Halfway through her glass of wine, she leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You've been quiet lately." "So have you," I said. Her eyes didn't flinch. "Do you still trust me?" That sentence didn't sound like curiosity. It sounded like surveillance. I felt a pulse in my jaw. Everything around us, the chatter, the music, the candlelight, went muffled. "What kind of question is that?" I asked, steady but low. "An honest one," she said. "You've been different. Watching me." I held her stare. "And you've been hiding something." She looked away, smiling like she'd expected that answer. "You're imagining things, Andrew." I sat back. The truth hit like cold metal. She wasn't scared I knew. She was checking how much I knew. It wasn't guilt in her eyes. It was a strategy. I dropped my napkin on the table, signaled the waiter. "Leaving already?" she asked. "Yeah." Her voice softened. "We should talk about this." "There's nothing left to talk about." The waiter brought the check. I didn't even glance at it. Left cash, stood up. As I walked past her, she reached for my hand. "Andrew." I stopped, looked at her fingers, manicured, trembling slightly. "You wanted to know if I trust you?" I said quietly. "Ask me again in a few days." Then I walked out. Outside, the air was cold. The city lights reflected off parked cars, sharp and distant. I stood there for a moment, breathing, feeling the weight slide off and something harder take its place. If she knew I was watching, fine. That just meant the game was real now. And I don't lose when the ground starts to shift. I rebuilt it. 2 days after the dinner, my phone rang just past noon. "Mr. Miller," the voice said, calm and gravelly. "I've got what you asked for." I knew it was Cole before he said his name. I'd been waiting for that call like a man waiting for a verdict he already suspects. "Come by my office," he said. "Better if you see it yourself." I didn't ask questions, just grabbed my keys and drove. His office sat in a strip mall off Federal. Plain door, no sign, just the number 214 taped beside it. Inside smelled like dust and burnt coffee. Cole looked exactly how I imagined. Mid-50s, thick mustache, eyes that had seen too much and didn't care anymore. "You're early," he said. I didn't have much else to do. He nodded, motioned to the chair across from his desk. A manila folder sat in the center like a loaded weapon. He slid it toward me. "It's all in there. Photos, timestamps, statements." I didn't open it right away. My hands stayed flat on the table. "You sure it's her?" "I don't bring maybes, Mr. Miller." I flipped the folder open. The first photo was her car, parked outside the downtown Hyatt. The second, her and a man stepping out of the elevator together. His hand on her back. Her smile, the one that used to belong to me. Cole kept talking, but I barely heard him. Words like multiple occasions, business partner, room 417. My brain cataloged them without emotion. That part comes later after disbelief dies. He handed me a small flash drive. Audio 2. Recordings from inside the car, 1 from the hotel bar. "You'll want to listen alone." I nodded once. "Who's the guy?" "Gregory Bennett," he said, glancing at his notes. "Your wife's partner at the boutique." I laughed, one short, humorless sound. I'd met Greg twice. Shook his hand. He told me he admired my work ethic. Cole watched me carefully. "You want me to keep digging?" "No," I said. "You've done enough." He gave a slow nod. "Sorry, man. Happens more than it should." I left without shaking his hand. The drive home felt long. Denver traffic, late afternoon sun slicing through the windshield, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. I didn't cry, didn't curse, just drove. The flash drive sat in the passenger seat like a confession. At home, I poured a drink before pressing play. Whiskey first, truth second. Her voice came through the speakers, clear, unmistakable. "Andrew's fine," she said, laughing softly. "Predictable, always serious. I don't think he'd even notice if I disappeared for a week." A man's voice answered, "Greg. That's what makes it easy." Then the sound of a kiss. The drink burned down my throat, but not enough. I played the clip again just to make sure it was real. The second time, I didn't feel anything, just quiet. I walked into the garage, sat on the workbench, stared at the blueprint rolled open on the table. A bridge over the South Platte River. The notes in my handwriting looked steady, methodical, precise. That's what I was, precise. That's what she called boring. I smiled at that. Small, controlled. A bridge doesn't collapse in one night. It weakens over time, joint by joint, until one load too many makes it give. She was my bridge, and now I knew exactly where it failed. I didn't plan the confrontation. I just woke up, looked at the folder on my desk, and decided it was time to stop pretending. By 9 a.m., I was behind the wheel. The folder rode shotgun, same as the flash drive. My hands were steady. My mind is quiet. Silk and Rose sat on the corner of 12th and Larimer. Big glass windows showing mannequins dressed in clothes Jessica once called effortless luxury. She'd built that place from scratch. I respected that once. I parked across the street, watched through the glass. She was inside, arranging displays, laughing with one of the girls. It almost looked like life before the rot. Almost. I crossed the street, pushed open the door. The bell above it chimed softly. She looked up, surprised, then smiled, reflex, not warmth. "Hey," she said. "Did you forget something this morning?" "Yeah," I said. "The truth." Her smile faltered. "What's that supposed to mean?" I placed the folder on the counter between us. "Open it." She didn't move. "Jessica," I said, voice even. "Open it." Her hands trembled as she flipped the cover. The first photo slid into view. Her face went pale. She turned the next one, then the next. When she hit the hotel timestamp, her knees almost gave out. "Where did you?" "Doesn't matter," I said. "You recognize him." Right on cue, Greg walked out from the back office, holding a clipboard. He froze when he saw me, then saw the photos. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. "Yeah," I said. "That's about right." Jessica tried to speak. "Andrew, please, don't." I took the flash drive from my pocket, placed it next to the folder. "Audio's on there. Everything you said. Every name you called me." She covered her mouth, tears welling up. Greg stared at the floor. "You wanted to know if I still trust you," I said. "There's your answer." She reached across the counter. "Andrew, we can talk about this." "No. You talked enough when I wasn't around." Greg stepped forward, palms out. "Man, look." I cut him off. "Your wife's got a copy of all this now. So do your investors." He froze like a man hearing his sentence read aloud. I turned back to Jessica. "I'm done being predictable." Her tears fell fast then. "Please, Andrew, don't destroy everything." I shook my head. "You did that. I'm just turning on the lights." I walked out, didn't look back. Outside, the air felt clean. The kind of clean that comes after demolition, when the dust finally settles and the wreckage starts to make sense. The folder, the recordings, her perfume, all of it stayed behind in that boutique. I had no use for it anymore. By nightfall, the story was everywhere. What started as whispers in the boutique spread like wildfire through Denver's business circles. I didn't post anything. Didn't have to. The proof worked on its own. Greg's wife, Claire, moved fast. One email to the boutique suppliers, one group chat with clients. Then came screenshots, forwarded messages, photos. By noon the next day, Silk and Rose wasn't a brand. It was gossip. Jessica called me 7 times that morning. I didn't answer once. By the 8th, she left a voicemail. Her voice was wrecked. Part sob, part disbelief. "Andrew, please, we can fix this. You didn't have to humiliate me." I played it twice, not because I missed her voice, because I wanted to hear what guilt sounds like when it runs out of excuses. By evening, I drove past the boutique. The windows were dark. A closed sign hung crooked. Inside, mannequins still wore her last display. Red silk dresses under cold light. It looked more like a crime scene than a shop. Greg's car wasn't there. Later, Claire had thrown him out, tossed his clothes on the lawn. He lost both his marriage and half the business before dinner. Jessica's apology came in person 2 days later. She showed up at the house, eyes red, makeup gone. She looked smaller, like life had already started collecting its payment. "Andrew," she said, voice trembling, "I made a mistake." "You made a choice," I corrected. She tried to reach for me. I stepped back. "Please, for the kids, can't we start over?" I looked her dead in the eye. "You buried us the moment you called me boring." Her lip quivered. "You sent it to everyone. I told you I'd never lie to you again." She broke then. Tears, shaking, the whole collapse. I didn't move. Watching her fall apart didn't feel good. It just felt necessary. When she finally left, I called my lawyer. Filed for divorce that same afternoon. He asked if I wanted to list infidelity as the cause. I said yes. And this time I didn't hesitate. The city moved on fast. People always do. But her world didn't recover. The boutique shut down within a month. Online, the comments were brutal. Fake feminist, homewrecker, unprofessional. The internet never forgets. Jessica took a job at a department store to stay afloat. I didn't smile when I heard. I just nodded, like an engineer inspecting the aftermath of his own demolition. The kids asked questions. I gave them honesty, not bitterness. Mom made some bad choices, I said, but she still loves you. That's all they needed. At night, when the house went quiet, I sat on the porch with a beer and the sound of my own breathing. No drama, no shouting, just quiet, the kind that doesn't hide anything. She lost her image. I lost my marriage. But between the two, only one of us kept our dignity. The courtroom smelled like paper and coffee. Jessica sat 2 rows ahead, pretending to be calm. I didn't have to pretend. By then, 6 months had passed since the boutique fell. The kids lived with me. She visited on weekends, short, supervised, awkward. She cried every time she left, but I'd stopped mistaking tears for change. When the custody hearing came, I wore a gray suit. No theatrics, no anger, just facts. My lawyer, Daniels, told me, "We're not here to destroy her. We're here to prove stability." "Stability's all I've got left," I said. Jessica walked in with her attorney, a thin woman in a blue skirt suit. They looked confident, rehearsed. She tried to smile at me once. I didn't return it. When the judge entered, the room went still. She was older, steady eyes, the kind who could read through performance. Daniel started with evidence, timelines, reports, bank statements. Then came the photos, the ones from Cole's folder. Every image landed like a hammer. Jessica's attorney objected to relevance. The judge overruled her. "It speaks to character and stability," she said flatly. Then Daniels played the audio, her voice calling me predictable, laughing about how I'd never notice. No one spoke. Even Jessica looked like she wanted to vanish. When the judge finally asked if I wanted to make a statement, I stood. "I'm not here for revenge," I said. "I just want my kids to grow up in a house where truth means something. That's all. Simple. Clean. No speeches." Jessica's turn came. She tried, I'll give her that. Talked about her mistakes, her therapy, her remorse. The words were polished, but the judge wasn't buying the shine. After deliberation, the gavel came down. Primary custody to Mr. Miller. Supervised visitation to Mrs. Miller until further review. Jessica's shoulders collapsed. I stayed still. Daniels shook my hand. "You did good," he said. "Didn't feel like winning," I told him. Outside, the sun hit hard. Greg was there too, waiting on a separate hearing, property dispute. His face was gray, eyes hollow. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. He'd lost everything, wife, business, reputation. Same as her. I walked to my truck, loosened my tie, and sat for a minute before starting the engine. The silence felt different this time, not empty, not angry, just finished. I didn't win anything today. I just stopped losing. 6 months after the custody ruling, the house was smaller, quieter, and more honest. For the first time in years, every sound inside it belonged to me. I traded square footage for peace, sold the old house, bought a 3-bedroom near the kids' school. No grand staircase, no marble countertops, just clean floors and walls that didn't echo with lies. Mornings started differently now. I made breakfast, eggs, toast, and coffee. Same routine, but it felt new. The kids sat at the table, half awake, trading jokes. Olivia, 10, too sharp for her age. Ben, 7, still innocent enough to believe every promise I made. We got through the days like a small, well-run crew. Homework, dinner, bedtime. Simple, predictable, the kind of predictable that feels earned. Jessica still called sometimes. Always emotional, always apologetic. "I'm trying to get better," she'd say. "For them. For us." I never argued. Just said, "That's good," and left it there. Forgiveness isn't weakness. But it's not something I give away cheap anymore. Therapy came next. Not because I was broken, because I didn't want to carry the rot forward. My therapist, a quiet man named Lang, asked once, "Do you miss her?" I thought about it. "No," I said. "I miss who I thought she was." He nodded like he'd heard it 100 times. Maybe he had. Work picked up again. Projects came easy. Engineers don't deal in maybes, just load limits, tensile strength, the math that never lies. I liked that kind of truth. It was held. At night, when the kids slept, I'd sit on the back porch, beer in hand, staring at the mountains. Denver skies are honest too, wide open, never pretending to be more than what they are. I used to think comfort was safety. Now I know it's clarity that keeps a man standing. One evening, at a parent-teacher meeting, a woman I barely knew stopped me as I was leaving. "You're Olivia's dad, right?" she asked. "Yeah." She smiled. "You're doing a good job. Your kids talk about you like you hung the moon." I smiled back. Not proud, just steady. They keep me grounded. Driving home, the car was quiet. No phone buzzing, no tension riding shotgun. Just the sound of tires on asphalt and my own breathing. Jessica, I'd heard, was working at a department store downtown. Her friends stopped visiting, her name no longer showing up in the local business pages. Sometimes I wondered if she'd learned anything. Most times I didn't. Some losses you don't mourn, you outgrow them. At home, I checked on the kids. Ben snored lightly. Olivia slept with a book open on her chest. I pulled the blanket over both of them, stood there a while just watching. That's when I realized peace isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It just sits beside you quietly until you notice you're breathing easier. I used to think the worst part was losing her. Now I know the real loss was who I became trying to keep her. People ask sometimes, friends, coworkers, even family, if I do it differently. I tell them no. Not because it didn't hurt, because it needed to. Pain strips you clean. It burns away illusion, pride, and the soft lies you tell yourself just to sleep at night. I used to believe love was about comfort, about holding on no matter what. But comfort can rot. And when it does, you either keep breathing it in or you open a window. I opened the window. There were days, sure, when it felt too heavy, mornings when I'd catch myself missing her hand on my arm, nights when the house felt too quiet. But quiet isn't emptiness anymore. It's space. I learned that truth doesn't heal fast. It just stops the bleeding. One evening, I went through an old box, wedding photos, honeymoon pictures, cards we'd written to each other. For a moment, I saw us as we were before the decay set in. Young, sure, blind. I didn't burn them. I didn't need to. They're just part of the record, proof that not everything that starts pure ends weak. Sometimes it just runs its course. Looking back, I don't regret confronting her. I regret waiting so long to face the signs. The perfume, the late nights, the laughter that didn't belong to me. I ignored the evidence because I thought loyalty meant denial. Now I know loyalty without truth is slavery. Jessica still sends messages sometimes. Apologies dressed as memories. I read them, then delete them. I don't need her guilt. I already have my peace. The kids are stronger now. Sharper, more aware of what respect looks like. Olivia once asked, "Dad, are you mad at Mom?" "No," I told her. "I just don't believe in pretending." That's the lesson, really. Pretending costs a man his edge, his dignity. I used to build bridges. Now I just build better boundaries. If betrayal taught me anything, it's that dignity doesn't survive lies. It grows from surviving them. Truth cost me everything I thought I needed, but it bought me freedom I didn't know I could have.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.